Have you ever stopped to think about what's really inside that jar of chicken bouillon powder sitting on your kitchen shelf? It's one of those ingredients that's so common, we often take it for granted, but behind every pinch of that golden powder lies a fascinating story. A story of innovation, tradition, and a whole lot of science. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on how chicken bouillon powder is made, from the raw ingredients to the factory process, and even the controversies that surround it. Whether you're a home cook, a foodie, or just someone curious about how everyday products are made, this video is for you. So let's dive in and uncover the secrets of chicken bouillon powder, because this is one story you won't want to miss. Chicken bouillon powder is more than just a seasoning. It's a culinary powerhouse. At its core, it's a concentrated form of chicken broth, dried and ground into a fine powder. But what makes it so special? For starters, it's incredibly versatile. A single teaspoon can transform a pot of plain rice into a flavorful side dish, or turn a simple soup into a rich, savory masterpiece. It's a staple in kitchens around the world, from busy households to high-end restaurants. But here's the thing, not all bouillon powders are created equal. Some are made with premium ingredients, while others rely on artificial flavors and preservatives. The quality of the ingredients and the production process can make a huge difference in the final product. So, what exactly goes into making chicken bouillon powder? Let's break it down. For example, have you ever noticed how some bouillon powders dissolve instantly while others leave a gritty residue? That's all down to the manufacturing process. And speaking of process, did you know that some factories produce over 10,000 tons of bouillon powder every year? That's enough to season millions of meals worldwide. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of production, let's take a quick trip back in time to see how bouillon powder came to be. To truly understand chicken bouillon powder, we need to go back in time. The concept of bouillon dates back to the 18th century, when French chefs began simmering meat, bones, and vegetables to create a rich, flavorful broth. This liquid gold, known as bouillon, was a cornerstone of French cuisine, but as demand grew, so did the need for a more convenient and shelf-stable product. Enter the bouillon cube. In the early 20th century, companies like Maggi and Knorr revolutionized the food industry by dehydrating broth and compressing it into cubes. These cubes were a game changer. They were easy to store, transport, and use. But as technology advanced, so did the product. By the mid-20th century, bouillon powder had entered the scene, offering even greater convenience and versatility. Today, chicken bouillon powder is a global phenomenon, used in everything from traditional soups to modern fusion dishes. But how does it go from raw ingredients to the fine powder we know and love? Let's take a closer look. For instance, did you know that the invention of bouillon cubes was partly driven by the need to feed soldiers during wartime? It's true. During World War I, bouillon cubes were a staple in soldiers' rations because they were lightweight, easy to transport, and packed with flavor. This historical tidbit shows just how deeply bouillon is woven into our culinary history. At the heart of every chicken bouillon powder are its ingredients. While the exact recipe varies by brand, most powders share a few key components. First and foremost, there's the chicken. Whether it's real chicken meat, bones, or a combination of both, this is what gives the powder its signature flavor. But chicken alone isn't enough. It's the combination of spices, herbs, and other ingredients that really brings the flavor to life. Salt is another essential ingredient. Not only does it enhance the taste, but it also acts as a preservative, extending the product's shelf life. Then there are the spices, things like garlic, onion, turmeric, and celery seed. These add depth and complexity to the flavor profile. Some brands also include monosodium glutamate, or MSG, to boost the umami taste. And let's not forget about the stabilizers and anti-caking agents, which ensure the powder stays free-flowing and easy to use. But here's where it gets interesting. Not all ingredients are created equal. Some brands use natural, high-quality ingredients, while others rely on artificial flavors and additives. The choice of ingredients can have a big impact on both the taste and the healthiness of the final product. So, how do these ingredients come together to create chicken bouillon powder? Let's find out. For example, some premium brands use free-range chicken and organic spices, while others might use lower quality ingredients to cut costs. This difference in quality is often reflected in the price, but is it worth it? That's something we'll explore later in the video. The journey from raw ingredients to finished product is a fascinating one. It all starts with sourcing the highest quality ingredients. The chicken, whether it's meat, bones, or both, is carefully selected and inspected to ensure it meets strict quality standards. The same goes for the spices and other ingredients. Everything has to be just right. Once the ingredients are ready, they're cooked together in large vats to create a concentrated broth. This is where the magic happens. The chicken and spices simmer for hours, releasing their flavors and aromas. The result is a rich, flavorful liquid that's packed with umami. But we're not done yet. The next step is dehydration. The broth is sprayed into a hot chamber where the water evaporates, leaving behind a fine powder. This powder is then granulated to achieve the perfect texture. Not too fine, not too coarse. Finally, the powder is mixed with any additional ingredients like anti-caking agents to ensure it stays free-flowing. The entire process is carefully monitored to ensure consistency and quality. After all, no one wants a jar of bouillon powder that's clumpy or flavorless. But how do manufacturers ensure that every batch meets the highest standards? Let's take a closer look. For instance, did you know that some factories use advanced sensors and AI to monitor the cooking process? These technologies ensure that the broth is cooked at the perfect temperature for the right amount of time, resulting in a consistent flavor every time. It's a perfect blend of tradition and technology. Quality control is a critical part of the chicken bouillon powder production process. From the moment the raw ingredients arrive at the factory to the final packaging, every step is closely monitored to ensure the product is safe, consistent, and delicious. First, the ingredients are tested for quality and safety. This includes checking for contaminants like bacteria or foreign objects and verifying that the ingredients meet the required specifications. Once the ingredients are approved, they're carefully measured and mixed to create the perfect blend. During the cooking and dehydration process, samples are taken at regular intervals to test for flavor, texture, and consistency. Any batch that doesn't meet the standards is rejected. Finally, the finished product is tested one last time before it's packaged and shipped. But quality control doesn't stop there. Many manufacturers also conduct shelf life testing to ensure the product stays fresh and flavorful for as long as possible. It's a rigorous process, but it's essential for delivering a product that consumers can trust. For example, some companies even hire professional chefs to taste test their bouillon powder and provide feedback. This ensures that the product not only meets safety standards, but also delivers on flavor. Once the chicken bouillon powder is ready, it's time to package it. Packaging might seem like a simple step, but it's actually one of the most important parts of the process. After all, no one wants a jar of bouillon powder that's stale or contaminated. Most chicken bouillon powders are packaged in airtight containers, like jars or sachets, to keep out moisture and air. This helps preserve the flavor and texture of the powder. Some brands also use foil-lined packaging to provide an extra layer of protection. But packaging isn't just about freshness, it's also about convenience. Many manufacturers offer a variety of packaging options, from single-serving sachets to large jars, to meet the needs of different consumers. And let's not forget about the labeling. Clear, accurate labeling is essential for helping consumers make informed choices about the products they buy. For instance, some brands now use eco-friendly packaging made from recycled materials. This not only reduces waste, but also appeals to environmentally conscious consumers. Like any manufacturing process, producing chicken bouillon powder has an environmental impact. From the energy used in the factory to the waste generated during production, there's a lot to consider. But many manufacturers are taking steps to reduce their environmental footprint. For example, some factories are switching to renewable energy sources, like solar or wind power, to reduce their carbon emissions. Others are implementing waste reduction programs, like recycling or composting, to minimize the amount of waste that ends up in landfills. But sustainability isn't just about the environment. It's also about the people and communities involved in the production process. Many manufacturers are working to ensure that their ingredients are sourced ethically and that workers are treated fairly. It's a complex issue, but it's one that's becoming increasingly important to consumers. For instance, some companies partner with local farmers to source their chicken and spices, supporting small-scale agriculture and reducing their carbon footprint. It's a win-win for everyone involved. Despite its popularity, chicken bouillon powder isn't without its controversies. One of the biggest concerns is its high sodium content. A single teaspoon of bouillon powder can contain as much as 50% of your daily recommended sodium intake. For people with high blood pressure or other health conditions, this can be a serious issue. Another concern is the use of additives, like MSG. While MSG is generally recognized as safe by regulatory agencies, some people report experiencing symptoms like headaches or nausea after consuming it. And then there are the artificial flavors and preservatives, which some consumers prefer to avoid. But it's not all bad news. Many brands are now offering low-sodium or additive-free options to cater to health-conscious consumers. And with a little research, it's possible to find a chicken bouillon powder that fits your dietary needs and preferences. For example, some brands use natural sea salt instead of regular table salt, which can reduce the sodium content without sacrificing flavor. Others use yeast extract as a natural alternative to MSG, providing the same umami boost without the controversy. So, there you have it, the fascinating story of how chicken bouillon powder is made. From its humble beginnings as a simple broth to the high-tech factory process that turns it into a fine powder, it's a journey that's as complex as it is intriguing. But as we've seen, it's not without its challenges. From health concerns to environmental impact, there's a lot to consider when it comes to this everyday ingredient. As we wrap up, here's something to think about. In a world where convenience often comes at a cost, how can we make smarter choices about the foods we eat? Whether it's opting for a low-sodium bouillon powder or supporting brands that prioritize sustainability, every little bit helps. So, the next time you reach for that jar of chicken bouillon powder, take a moment to appreciate the journey it's been on. and the choices you can make to ensure it's a journey worth taking.